We are the Lab Doctors. I'm Amanda.
I'm Dorothy.
And I'm Zhao Yong.
We are biomedical researchers who realized we still have a lot to learn about science.
So why not join us on this quest?
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Lab Doctors podcast. So continuing on Period Month, we have a Today We Learn episode where we will be talking about periods, obviously. So in case you missed it, Today We Learn episodes are the ones where we answer questions based on what we already know. And then in part 2, we come back and tell you what we found.
Okay, so basically for today's questions, these are just questions that Amanda and I have come up with because there's so much to rant about period problems. But basically it's just, we just want to know what happens. Why is like cramps so uncomfortable and why menses is just, there's so many things going on, and is there any science behind all these that we are experiencing? So let's just go into the first one. What are abdominal cramps and why does it occur?
Again, I feel like I need to disclaimer myself every episode that I don't go through periods, but I don't know. So for the science behind abdominal cramp, so the uterus is lined by smooth muscles, right? Am I scientifically right about that?
I'm guessing so, because like when you are giving birth, the whole womb is able to contract.
Yeah. So is it the same?
People say contractions feel like cramps but on steroids, you know? As in like more intense.
Yeah.
So it's just your uterus contracting.
Yeah, and actually I think so, because you're expelling like blood and mucus and all this, and it's just kind of like your body's way to maybe to push it out. That's what I think. But then also again, not everyone experiences cramps during their period, so it's like maybe it's not necessary. Or maybe it's just there to mentally prepare me for giving birth. It's like, this is what level 1 feels like. And then when you give birth, it's level 10.
Okay, I can't speak for everyone because I don't know what other people's cramps feel like. But I only can compare it with the different levels of pain that I feel throughout my period. And I really think it's the contracting to expel the blood and everything out, because cramps are generally more painful when your flow is heavy.
Yeah, the first few days.
So when you have more to expel, then it's more painful. So that actually really makes sense, like to push everything out.
But so that's the question I have. Are the contracting of the muscles, is that something that you can control?
No.
Because I'm trying to think about it in a very evolutionary perspective.
Okay.
Like, why does it need to be painful? It doesn't make sense to me. You know? Like, why would
why can't it be like just pushing but you don't feel
pain?
it? Like, why must it be so strong?
Yeah, exactly. Like, why do you need to feel pain? Because, okay, I'm just thinking something I can relate to, which is poops. Like, it hurts, and then but you can, like, you know, the more it hurts, the more you want to push it out, right? Because you don't want it to continue hurting.
Yeah, that's true. But for period itself, like, yes, to a certain extent you can like kind of force the blood to come out, but it's still very involuntary at times. Like, maybe when I go toilet and pee at the same time, then you can force some blood out, but like sometimes it's just no blood, and it doesn't mean that once you force all the blood out, your cramps stop. It just stops when it supposedly stops. So
yeah, so I guess that's why evolutionarily it doesn't really make sense to me why it needs to hurt.
Reminds you of your mortality.
I feel like I heard from somewhere before that cramps only occur to us like in the modern times, and it could be like food related that affects hormones and stuff like that. Whereas if you think about it, like when let's say a few thousand years ago, if people had cramps as bad as us, right, I think they would be dying. Like,
okay, I don't know, but it
so
could be
painful.
like
I don't know.
The system last time. Like, historians don't really like record female issues, and then like you maybe wouldn't be able to voice it like we do now. I don't know if it could be that like this, like socially maybe it's not as acceptable to talk about your period, especially in front of males. I don't know. That's what I think.
Right.
It could be that also, like, so from a historical perspective, it just could be that women used to be more silenced. I don't know. I don't want to go into the social justice thing, so let's just move on.
But I think, maybe food nowadays does affect. I think just one more theory that I have is that it's just because your body is breaking down. And if you think about it, like any part of your body breaking down should be painful. So maybe it's like because
the uterine lining
is breaking down. Yeah, the uterine lining is breaking down, and then there's blood coming out, and there's so many things coming out.
Right.
Therefore, it's just painful.
Right.
Next question. Period bloating. So I think for myself and probably Amanda also, we experience period bloating is like during the earlier parts of your menses itself. I think you can definitely tell that your like womb area is a bit bloated as well. It's uncomfortable. It's not like gas that you can fart out.
Yeah,
Right.
that's like the signifier that my period is going to start when I'm bloated, but it's not food related. And I'm like, oh, it's very obvious. And I'm like, okay, period's coming.
Yeah, I would like want to wear looser clothing because it's also uncomfortable.
Right. So does it feel distinctly different from, like, let's say, your stomach bloating? Like, you can definitely tell it's, I don't know, lower or maybe
lower. Yeah, I think it's lower.
Okay.
But what causes it? I don't know. Why would we be gassy?
Yeah, it's not like the blood boils or bubble when it.
Okay, what's the phase just before? It's the luteal phase, right?
Yeah.
What happens then? Nothing.
When your corpus luteum is formed from the follicle, and then that releases a lot of estrogen and progesterone to maintain the uterine lining. But if you're not pregnant, then the corpus luteum breaks down.
Is it the estrogen and progesterone then that is like causing you to like, I don't know, maybe your womb to be more ready for the pregnancy?
Maybe, but where does the gas come from? Like, is it really gas? Is it just a feeling? Is it really gas?
That's the question, is it?
I think it's gas. I would be mind blown if it's not. Then it's like, what, water?
Is it water?
Or is it blood?
Oh, there's not that much blood, I think.
Is it that it's basically your uterine lining being at, in a sense, the peak mass if you aren't pregnant? So that's why it feels more bloated than usual.
That might be. Okay, personally, I think, like, I feel that, like, girls are very conscious about their tummy fat.
Okay.
So personally, I feel that my tummy fat is, like, more obvious at the second half of the menstrual cycle month. And now I tell myself, like, oh yeah, it's the womb lining and getting thicker, and that's why just generally there it looks bigger. And then after that, like, sometimes after my menses is over, I feel like, yeah, that's when my stomach is the flattest ever. So maybe it's because it's super thick.
And in a sense, because it increased the mass, maybe it pushes against other organs, so it feels bloated. If there's any swelling, it will feel.
Yeah, that's true. I never thought of it that way. But I'm just thinking, if your uterine lining breaks down, right, does it release anything? Like, sometimes chemical reactions and you need to like release something. So does breaking it down produce gas as a
byproduct?
Side product.
Byproduct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's a potential thing also.
Or water, whatever's making us bloated.
I really wanted to Google it, but I'm like, no. For the sanctity of Today We Learn episodes. Okay, so I guess our next question is, why do all the mental or emotional symptoms of PMS occur? So things like mood swings, anxiety, and being emotional.
I'm guessing it's hormones.
Right.
Okay, so there's hormones released from the pituitary gland, was it?
Yes.
And which was signaled by the hypothalamus in your brain.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like the hormones from the pituitary gland, it binds to some other receptor in your brain, and that affects your mood. But then it's always so that means it's probably when it's the highest level of estrogen and progesterone that you get your PMS, because it's usually right before you start bleeding.
Right.
Wait, I thought the hormones are released in your body. It gets released in your brain. Sounds like such a stupid question, but
yeah, suddenly
when does the hormones like release?
The ovaries release hormones also, and then the pituitary gland release hormones also.
Yeah. But it's the different hormones, right? So the hypothalamus releases follicle stimulating hormone (FSH) and luteinizing hormone (LH).
Yeah.
And then the ovaries release estrogen and progesterone. Right?
Sounds about right. I feel like I just learned this.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So
yeah.
Wait, so it's the FSH and LH that would be affecting? Are these hormones used for anything else? I feel like I've only heard it exclusively in menstrual cycle and reproduction.
Yeah. I'm thinking, because again, like in a previous episode, I think Amanda mentioned that, the circadian rhythm and basically hormonal cycles that's within the body can affect the menstrual cycle, right?
Yeah.
So to me, I'm like thinking that basically any cycling of hormones would just naturally affect all the different parts of your body. Maybe it's just either the results of the hormone levels changing that affects biology, that affects psychology, or the hormones themselves actually directly affecting the brain.
Yeah, because like progesterone and estrogen, they not only affect like your womb itself, they can affect it's just the hormones that are involved in puberty, right?
Yes.
So it's not just one particular site that it acts on, which is the womb. It affects other things. So maybe it does affect something in the brain that controls your emotions as well.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to the last question? I think this question is pretty fun.
Yes.
Okay, our last question is period syncing legit? So for those who don't know, like women, sometimes we think that if I hang out with somebody for too long, for example, I hang out with Amanda in lab last time, right? And then our periods start to sync. That means it starts at the same time.
Yeah.
And then let's say I'm away from Amanda, like I shifted to a new job, right? And then I start syncing with the girls in my new place.
Okay.
And me and you are out of sync now.
Yeah. So is period syncing a legit thing, and is there any science behind it?
Okay, so I think I read this article like last time where oh my goodness, it was so many years ago and I wasn't in science yet, I guess. I mean in research yet, so I didn't think to check the source. But apparently it had something to do with like the pheromones you release when you are on your period, which like kind of affects the girls around you. But then I think recently I read another article that says like that's a lie, that's just a myth and it doesn't happen. Like apparently period syncing is not legit, which I don't really know because anecdotally I feel like we were synced when we were in the same lab. And then I always have this theory that some girls are like stronger, like to pull you into their cycle, and then like like one of the I would just like I would just be with whoever is that, like one of our previous honor students, like I felt like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I synced up to her, and maybe I hung out too much with her also, and then like I'm like, oh my goodness, why can't I be the one pulling people into my cycle? But yeah, anyway, sorry.
So is it the whole like alpha womb, beta womb theory thing?
What's it?
I feel like I read about that.
What's an alpha womb?
People with people with that can pull you in have like the alpha womb, and then like if you are the one being pulled in, you have a beta womb.
I guess I'm a beta womb.
I think for me, a certain period is by chance. Like, so because we don't exactly say that, it starts on this day, but it's like we are like within a few days of each other, and then we call it period syncing really. So it really can be by chance. But for a more scientific perspective, I would think that maybe because you hang out with each other so often, right, that your emotions are just the same. They're in line with each other. So like, let's say if it's a very stressful period at work, you would be stressed the same time as your colleague. And therefore like that affects your period the same way. And if you're happy together, then, it kind of, that's why I think it could sync.
Oh, that actually makes sense. So it's more of a psychological thing that primes your body to be biologically the same.
Yeah, like what Amanda said, the flight or flight in the previous episode. So that could affect like the stress levels and stuff like that. And maybe the food you eat, like you hang out at the same place, you may eat together and that kind of thing.
Right. That makes a lot of sense to me.
So maybe it is legit.
Okay, so I think we're all out of theories today. So just to remind everyone what our questions are: what are period cramps and why does it occur? What causes period bloating and the mental and emotional symptoms of PMS? And is period syncing legit? Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Hi everyone, welcome back to part 2 of period questions.
Yes.
We haven't thought of a title.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're just another period episode.
Pulling back the curtain, we always think of the title after we record.
If you notice, all our titles, or rather how we describe the episode during each episode, doesn't really match with the title.
It's fine.
Anyway, we are on the topic of period cramps. So, Zhao Yong, what are period cramps and why does it occur?
Seems weird being asked this question, but
as a scientist.
Yes. So basically, there's this hormone-like lipid known as a prostaglandin. So it is produced and stored in the uterine lining, and it is hormone that's kind of involved in inflammation and also pain responses. So it is that hormone that increases, that causes the uterine lining to contract.
Right.
And then it helps get rid of the lining that is built up during the normal menstrual cycle. So once released, these prostaglandins stimulate the contraction, and that causes the cramps to occur. It's these exact contractions.
Annoying things.
Yeah. So partially, I feel like how it causes, not really causes bloating, but it might induce some type of bloating also, is that it also causes nausea and it can also cause diarrhea. Yeah, so period poops.
That is so relevant.
Yes.
I mean, it just makes sense now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's the thing, because it is causing the uterus to contract. So it only lasts the first few days, and that's why cramps also only last about typically the first few days.
Yeah, and the period poop thing is also like
The first few days. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. So more serious menstrual cramps, like more severe cramps, can actually be due to other more severe conditions like endometriosis,
Yeah.
adenomyosis, pelvic inflammatory disease, or cervical stenosis. So if you are interested in all these other things, you can look it up on Google. But again, always take note of all the symptoms that you're having. If it's too severe, and maybe if it happens more longer or shorter as well, just as long as it's irregular
Yeah,
from
it's
your
weird.
normal pattern,
Yeah.
then it should be something that you take note of. But I feel like I didn't really answer the question. If you all think about it, like, why does it have to hurt? Why does contractions have to hurt?
But contractions
Right.
hurt even in pregnancy, right?
Yeah, but why?
No,
Why
but even
does it-
like muscle cramps,
exactly.
it hurts.
So, and I was also thinking the other thing is like poops. Like, why does
like
it hurt
stomach
when I
ache.
need to
Oh.
defecate, you know? And I was trying to look that up, and I just never got a satisfying answer. No one actually knows why it has to hurt.
Is it hitting the nerves or something when you are contracting?
So for poops, as in they are saying that it might be because when the poop feces is traveling through your intestines, the curves, if the poop is too hard, it might like cause pain when it rubs against your intestine. But then I was thinking back to like menstruation and like the shedding of the lining, and I don't really get how.
I always thought that the more blood that you are losing, the worse the cramps are. Is it the same?
Principle?
Yeah.
I
I don't
don't
know.
think so.
I'm not too sure.
I don't think so.
But maybe it's just one of those things like what Dorothy mentioned. I was thinking like the closest thing it could be would be muscle cramps, and you want it to relax but it can't relax. So it's constantly in a tense state. So maybe that's why.
Or maybe it's like pulling on something else, another
yeah.
skin or another organ.
Yeah.
There's pain receptors everywhere.
Yeah. So prostaglandins and just constant contractions that's causing cramps.
All I'm thinking is, are there such thing as anti-prostaglandin tablets? Oh wait, I guess that's the Panadol that we eat.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know if the Panadol we eat has
Oh, I don't know.
whatever makes it work. But either way, when you eat the pink Panadol,
Yeah.
it will reduce cramps and it will reduce the flow of blood.
Oh, I didn't know it would reduce the flow of blood. That's cool.
Cool.
Yeah, so I always wonder if like my uterine lining is just building up every month because it's not clearing out everything. I don't know how
Should
this
you
works.
stop taking
But-
Panadol?
I don't take it if I don't have to.
Oh,
Like, yeah.
okay. Speaking of other things that affect the abdomen, what causes period bloating?
Okay, so the hormones progesterone and estrogen, they cause the body to retain water and salt. So when that happens, the cells in your body become more swollen with water and it makes one feel bloated. So I was reading this very difficult to read paper and I hope I got the points correct. But basically, a few reasons. One is receptors for estrogen and progesterone are found in the non-reproductive tissue in places such as the hypothalamus. So this regulates your thirst. And these hormones, estrogen and progesterone, actually make you more thirsty. So in one study, they found that these two hormones affected body fluid and sodium regulation by lowering the set point for osmotic regulation, thirst, and arginine vasopressin. Okay, let me go into detail. So estrogen in particular lowers the threshold by which arginine vasopressin works. Arginine vasopressin is a hormone that causes your kidney to reabsorb water, so there will be more water retention. And by lowering the threshold, it means that this hormone, arginine vasopressin, will exert its effect more easily, like with inverted commas, more easily. So therefore, there will be more water retention and bloating. Notably, this study noted that in healthy women, estrogen or progesterone did not really affect sodium and water retention. Rather, it altered water distribution in the body.
Oh.
So it's not really like the hormone is there to affect how much is taken. It's more like it affects the threshold at which your body regulates stuff. So how to combat period bloating? Number one, eat less salty food because these are the ones that make your body like retain more water.
Yes.
You can also take diuretics. So these would help to increase urine production. So you pee more and retain less water.
Right.
Oh,
You
drink
can-
tea.
Oh, is it? Tea
Yeah.
works?
Tea is a
Like iced lemon
diuretic.
tea?
Any tea.
Milk tea.
Yeah.
Bubble tea.
I mean, I don't know how milk affects people, but
Might cause more bloating if you're lactose intolerant.
yeah. But tea, maybe black tea.
Black tea.
Okay. Potassium-rich foods. So potassium gets rid of sodium and promotes urine production. And finally, avoid refined carbohydrates, example white flour and processed sugar, as these will increase blood sugar levels, which increase insulin and cause the kidneys to retain more sodium, which means water retention. And of course, there are other methods you can find on the internet, but I just highlighted these few.
Right. So I guess bubble tea is kind of out because it contains too much refined sugar.
Oh, yes.
Oh yes, so much refined
And it's
sugar.
cold. It's not good.
Yes.
Do you Google it? I think the cold thing doesn't
It's a
matter.
myth.
Really?
So moving on from the physical aspects of periods, let's go into the more psychological and mental aspects. So what are the symptoms of PMS or premenstrual
Syndrome.
and why does it happen?
Okay, so common emotional symptoms of PMS or premenstrual syndrome include mood swings, sadness, irritability, anxiety, and anger. So if you experience any of this, which I mean I do, I think Dorothy maybe does a bit as well.
I do.
It is completely normal because up to 75% of women experience PMS symptoms to varying degrees. So it's a spectrum. So don't freak out too much if you find yourself crying or prone to crying leading up to and during the first few days of your period.
Yes.
Okay, so the thing about it, why does it happen? To date, experts have not agreed on the exact cause of PMS, but suggest that it is likely linked to hormonal fluctuations that happen during the second half of the menstrual cycle during ovulation.
Oh.
So hormones seem to be playing a role in all of this because, it's in cramps and bloating. So as we said previously, if you remember from the first episode about the menstrual cycle, after the body releases an egg, estrogen and progesterone levels drop. And changes in these hormone levels affects serotonin levels. So you've probably heard of serotonin as one of the happy hormones along with dopamine, oxytocin and endorphins.
Right.
So serotonin is sometimes called the mood stabilizer and can impact every part of your body and can help with sleeping, eating and digesting. So research has shown that low levels of serotonin are linked to sadness, irritability, trouble sleeping, and unusual food cravings, which pretty much line up with some symptoms of PMS. So to counteract the low levels of serotonin, treatment options include selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which is a common antidepressant and may be considered to treat PMS-related mood swings. So basically it works like how it sounds. It prevents the blood from absorbing some of the serotonin from your brain. So it leaves more serotonin circulating so that it can be transmitted and you won't feel so sad. Okay, so I think that's the conclusion that I'm most convinced by, but yeah, it's not fully elucidated, but yeah, so basically the estrogen and progesterone levels affects serotonin levels and that's what affects and makes you more like have all these emotional symptoms, which is quite sad. I was thinking about it.
I'm just thinking like, when will I see a doctor for my PMS syndrome? Like, what is too serious a PMS that I have to see a doctor to eat all these antidepressants?
I think it's quite similar to other non-neurotypical disorders when it starts impairing your livelihood, like when it starts affecting the way you're living,
When you can't function.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess the main point is if you ever feel this way, you're not alone because we all feel it. I mean, people going through PMS feel it. So pretty normal.
I guess moving on to a more
lighthearted,
funnish question, a myth question. I don't know if it's a myth. I guess Dorothy will tell us if it's a myth. But is period syncing real?
Am I going to tell you if it's a myth? Okay. One theory is because of pheromones. So these are chemical signals sent to other humans, usually promoting attraction, fertility, and sexual arousal amongst other things. So would like to insert my own comment that in one of our previous episodes, we talked about pheromones. I think it's the truffle pig one.
Right.
So that's for animals. I guess it works for mating and stuff like that. But I don't know how much this applies for human interactions.
Right.
I mean, I don't really get attracted to someone's smell, so...
Maybe subconsciously. I don't think we think about.
There are studies that talk about like
the sweat
smell.
one.
Yeah. But I guess it's not like the top in the list. Or like, unless that person smells super bad, then it's to you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's your own preference.
It's preference, yeah.
So anyway, there were a few studies that were conducted to find out whether period syncing is legit. So you want to guess the answer?
They don't know. As with everything in
I want to
science.
say no.
You want to say no?
I think it's
Do
no,
you think
right?
the scientists would conclusively say no?
No, actually, you're right. Yeah.
Yes, so exactly. Yeah, there's mixed results, obviously, and like there's papers just fighting with each other. So if you go read into the different studies, which we'll include in the link, basically what they do was they take women living in dorms to study because these are the ones that would hang out more with each other.
Right.
However, like when you look at all these studies, there will be a lot of factors that we cannot control and would potentially affect whether period syncing would happen or not if it does. So for example, any of the girl might interact with a male and that may screw up their syncing with the other females. There may be classes within the samples where they consider close friends, maybe like people living in the same room as you in the dormitory. So you might interact more with these people, but you might also, find friends out of it. So it's very hard to control. There also can be common stress periods and light-dark cycle between girls in the same room. So these may promote period syncing within the same room. And of course, no study design is perfect because we are involving like a huge cohort. Also, one of the study concluded that women staying together had a higher frequency of menstrual migraine, which is like the headache, and that's about 50% of them, compared to those living alone, which had about 16.7%.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, that's quite a big difference. And that's on top of showing menstrual cycle synchrony of 44.4%. However, you can also argue, statistically, that since your period is almost 1 week long, and there are only 4 to 5 weeks a month, the chances that your period overlapping with someone's is quite high. So I think there was one paper that talked about some math, but obviously I do not understand. So since we cannot really
control all the factors in humans. Yeah.
Let's study animals. In animals, some studies showed synchronization, while one study found that pre-synchronized group of golden hamsters significantly desynchronized their cycles. So if you think about it, synchronization is not advantageous for animals because if they are synchronized, females, they will all compete for the same high-quality males at the same time. So the frequency of mating with the high-quality male will drop, and therefore the fitness of the animal population will decrease. So it's better that they desync their cycles.
As in, because then there will be only one period where everyone is finding and then there will be a lull, I guess.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Wait, but
So you would want it to be forever ready to mate.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But then is it animal specific? Because some animals have mating seasons and whatnot.
Perhaps.
Maybe, yeah. But this is hamsters, which I guess is quite close to humans.
Are they closer to humans?
Hamster to mouse to humans. I mean,
Mouse very close.
hamsters to mouse to monkeys to humans.
I think we're jumping a lot, but I don't know.
Anyway, finally, so other than pheromones, there's some other theory, which is that people long believe that the menstrual cycle line with the moon, because both of them are kind of like 28-day cycles.
Right, yeah.
So in a study done in monkeys around the equator, their cycles were actually in sync. So the luteinizing hormone can be inhibited by this substance produced by the pineal gland, of which the production of this substance is inhibited by light.
Oh.
So a full moon would continuously generate light and inhibit the production of the substance. And so the luteinizing hormone levels will be high and promote ovulation. However, I'm guessing that this won't work and be relevant for humans in this day and age because we have electricity.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
There's always light with or without a full moon.
Yeah.
So is period syncing logic? I don't know. And I feel like I still more statistically.
Yeah.
And I guess the stress thing
Yeah, I
affect
think
because you're in the same place.
Oh, are we more legit
Probably
than
closer.
these scientists?
I mean we are self-declaring to be more legit than these scientists.
So we'll put all the link in the description and you can click on the hyperlinks to the studies
Read up if you are interested.
because they're so long.
Okay, so I guess basically cramps are due to prostaglandins, which,
Promote the contraction.
yes.
Of the uterus.
And then bloating and PMS symptoms are caused by hormonal changes, which affect other hormones and
Water retention.
Water retention.
serotonin level.
Yeah, and chemical balances.
Yeah. And we don't know whether period syncing is legit.
And as usual, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Spotify. A like and a comment would really help us out. And I guess thank you for wanting to learn more.
Thank you.
You can also follow us on our social media, Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. And feel free to DM us any questions.
Alternatively, you can email us at thelabdoctors@gmail.com. And if you like this episode or this themed months, please share it with your friends. Thank you.
Bye-bye.